Welcome back. Matt Lee joins us, and we're talking about asbestos, and quite alarming for some people. Welcome. Always good to see you, my friend.
You. Yeah,
you came across this issue recently on a home inspection.
yeah, so what we have talked about in the past is we talked about vermiculite insulation. We had these samples from Pynchon before, and basically it showed kind of the difference of where maybe some asbestos had been hiding in insulation, which is more of a serious removal. They're all fairly serious. I mean, they go from type 1 to type 3. The stuff that we're looking at today is kind of manufactured and made into tiles and made into tape and made into board. So therefore, it's not airborne unless you actually break it or you try to saw through it. So that is one of these different issues, and it's a different way of removing it. You know, you talk to these companies like Interprovincial or Environmental. You know, these are the guys that are the professionals that you get in, have them. They basically tarp the area that they're doing, and they have a shower, basically, so that they can come into the area.
Decontaminate themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cause any issues outside of that self-contained area.
So a good rule of thumb: if it's an older home,
Yep.
and you have to remove anything, call a professional.
I call the professional. I mean, your home inspector has been through enough of these homes, likely if they've done a lot, that they might say, okay, well that tile, 9 by 9 inch tile, has a very likelihood that it could be asbestos. So I would say that the best thing to do is to ask the owner if you can actually take a chip from somewhere, maybe in a closet, to take just a sample
And have it tested.
And have it tested.
Okay.
So you can rush a test. I mean, it can be done in 24 hours. Normally it's 3 days, but you can make it happen quickly. We don't use asbestos anymore for builds, but yeah, we're talking about stuff that happened kind of between the 1960s and 1986, I believe.
If it breathed in, it is a cancer-causing material.
It is. It basically causes an issue in your lungs where there's two different types of asbestos, from my understanding, and one is kind of shaped like a J, which isn't as serious, but it still is asbestos, and the other one is shaped like a J with a hook off the back, and basically it gets caught in your lungs. And that's why you want to make sure that this stuff is removed from where you're living.
You mentioned tiles. I think that's the first picture here.
Yeah, so basically these are kind of like a brittle tile, and they broke apart. 9 by 9s, they did make them in 6 by 6s, 9 by 9s, and 12 by 12s. We do make 12 by 12s continuous now. This white tape that's actually wrapped around the joints is asbestos tile, and it's actually wrapped around the box at the top, so therefore they're trying to contain the heat so that you're getting more efficient. This board is, you'll see this, it's used as a heat shield, usually above furnaces. Milk houses in old barns, like milk houses, you know, for dairy farms, this was what they used for that area.
And the siding even on a house.
Yeah, so this transom board, we have this picture, and then basically you can kind of see it a little bit closer as well on the next one, and that is actually asbestos board. And we see this really all over the city. It's outside, so when you talk to these professionals about it, I mean, the first thing that I usually see is they say, yeah, it is asbestos. Would I remove it if it was my house? I'm not sure. I mean, because you can paint it. It's not something that you're going to be breathing in because it's on the outside. So it's discretionary to the owner. But I would seriously have a conversation about what it's actually going to cost. Because of it being a type 1 removal, it's not as expensive you're not going to tarp the whole house, from my understanding, but the weight of the asbestos removal is going to cost you. Because like what they're charging a good amount to basically put this in a landfill somewhere, and if you're going to pull off all the siding off of a house, it's more than just insulation out of an attic. So you really have to have this conversation and figure out, is this going to hurt my health, or is this something that doesn't matter because it's on the outside? You know, there's different things you kind of go through and just figure it out for yourself.
And by all accounts, chances are, if there's not a tornado that's going to snap it in two,
Yeah,
you'll be okay.
I think the wind will hurt you more than the asbestos.
That's a whole lot of tornado coverage insurance. It's a whole other topic.
The whole different thing. Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay.
All right. Well, that's basically what we run into, I think, and those were a few things that we saw in a few home inspections recently, and it's just good information to have. I think that you can look it up on the internet, Google asbestos, if you think that something looks like it could be asbestos insulation, because they not only did they tape joints. They actually used to wrap the pipes
With
from one end to the
asbestos.
with
Wow.
asbestos insulation. It was a really good insulation, and that's why they were doing it. I don't think that they really knew at the time
No, of
how
course
serious
not.
it was.
Well, if you have any questions, ask a professional or ask Matt Lee. Here's how.
Real estate tips brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.